What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another Ross review. Today I've got a 2012 Subaru WRX base, and today we're going to find out if you really need an STI to have fun. Starting with the exterior here on the WRX, this is part of the third generation of WRXs, and this carries the exact same body style as the STI. So essentially these cars look identical besides the huge rear wing the STI has and I think a front lip. Besides that, they both have the huge wide body styling, front flared out fenders on the front and back, the massive hood scoop intake here on the hood. And they look really sharp. It's a very nice looking car. Now this engine in particular, it's a 2.5 liter flat 4 turbo, pumping out 265 horsepower and 244 pound-foot of torque. 0 to 60 times in this is around 5 seconds. As for the STI, if you went up there, you have just a larger turbo on this engine. Increases up to 40 horsepower, so you're running 305 horsepower on the STI. So there is sort of a big mechanical difference between these cars. This WRX is ran through a 5-speed manual gearbox. The STI is a 6-speed manual gearbox. Now, a cool fact about these cars is for this generation, the 2012 third generation, all WRXs and STIs were sold as a manual, which is very cool. I like that. Good work, Subaru. Now again, in the back, they carry the same traits as the STI, this WRX. It has quad exhaust on the back. We have the same rear end bumper. Very nice looking rear end as well. Only difference would be that this has a shallow spoiler on the trunk, where the STI would have a massive rear wing. I'm coming up to the side fenders here again. We've got these really wide extended piece right here with a little bit of a grate down the side, which is a nice look. You have this metal piece here with the initials WRX. In the STI, it'll say STI obviously, but it's a nice little piece that gives it an upscale look. So driving the 2012 Subaru WRX base. Woo-hoo-hoo! Now this thing doesn't feel like a base to me. This thing can rip. Got the all-wheel drive, turbo, flat 4. In the 5-speed, but man, these gears are torquey and they pull, especially second gear. This second gear will just take you from like standing still to space, it feels like. Driving this car as well, like, I don't particularly notice a huge amount of lag. Obviously the turbo does take a while to spool up. You know, you got to be, you know, you want to be close to $4,000 before you really feel it take off. But especially I noticed it in second gear. It just sort of seems to really find torque even in the low revs and then pull you straight to 4 quickly, and then the turbo takes care of the rest and it goes. Oh fuck yeah. You really tell it's a performance car as well when you just look at the gauge cluster here, you know. Huge tachometer right in the middle of your face there with the rev counter. You know, everything else is sort of tiny into the side. really giving you that performance feel. You know, this car is it's a performance vehicle, rally inspired. So WRX stands for World Rally Experiment. Yeah, going around these corners is satisfying. And it pulls. That turbo, when you're in $4,000, you put your foot down and it goes fast. It's surprisingly quick. Steering's got a nice feel. It's a little lighter than I thought it would be, but still got a really nice feel. You know, you can hear that turbo whine as well when you just really step on it, which is a nice feeling. Even the exhaust in this base, this is the base model, and it's still got quad exhausts in the rear end, and you can still hear it, you know, a good amount. It pulls. Oh yeah, this thing goes hard. For just being the base WRX, this thing feels fast, like just as fast as an STI. It's really surprising me, actually. From what I've been reading and like from what I feel, second gear in this car just kills it. Like this second gear really packs a punch, and 0 to 100 feels really close to an STI. It's like surprisingly close. Now on the inside, you know, we've got just basic climate controls. You know, it's nothing fancy in here. We got a basic head unit. We do got Bluetooth though and stuff like that, so that's good to see. But you know, all in all, you buy this car, you know, it is a base model, so you're really buying this car for performance and price. So like, this is where this car is super strong. You get all-wheel drive, you get a huge amount of performance. You know, it's a turbo car, looks crazy and cool on the outside. You know, you got massive hood scoops and everything. It's actually surprisingly faster than I thought as well, and yeah, it's just a good enthusiast car, and it's no wonder why these cars are so popular. Also in the back, you know, the back is super practical. It's a decent size. You know, this is a sub-compact four-door, obviously, but in the back you've got a decent amount of legroom and headroom. Definitely usable. Now this is a 2012, so it is a few years old, but in comparison to WRXs and that, you know, it's still a fairly newer one compared to how long they've been in production. But its roots still feel like it's an older, you know, 80s, 90s Japanese car, which I like. I personally like that feel. You know, I always feel JDM, older 90s JDM cars, they're more stripped down. You have more of a connection to the car, more of a connection to the road, and I really like that. And to me, driving this car, it's got that personality of still like a 90s JDM car, which I think is awesome. I think that's really cool. Now, if there was an option that I would probably get if I had have bought this car from the factory, it would have been the short shifter. That's probably one of my biggest things about this car, is that the shifter is quite tall. Surprisingly tall. I don't really know why they made it that tall. They didn't need to. One thing to mention though in these cars, the clutch is a bit tricky to get used to. It's a bit heavy of a clutch, and it comes on pretty quick, so you need to have a bit of gas when you go. Summertime hits again, you've got a fun car to rip around, fun car to drive, and even in the winter this thing is fun to drive. Like, even in the snow, like, they're not that easy to break loose on traction. So that's the 2012 Subaru WRX base. Really nice car, especially for the price point. Very fast, nearly just as fast as the STI, I feel, when you really pull this thing. Just from the gear ratio differences, It's a really nice car to drive. Again, it's really only held back from interior pieces, and but at this price point you can't really complain. And if I was looking seriously to buy a WRX or an STI, obviously if you have the money, buy the STI, but these cars are super capable and very nice cars to drive, and for the price I would happily buy one of these cars myself.